The board today.
What's your name, man?
I'm Nicholas.
Nicholas, yeah. Aman, nice meeting you. What time do you like? We can like 3, 2, 5 maybe?
Yeah, five.
Welcome guys to another video. We're back in a different setting this time. We attended an event called Pub Chess in Toronto, which was a lot of fun. And I'm playing against Nicholas from France. And we decided to play a 5-minute game with no increment.
I will need that.
I do not like this opening, and I mean it. I find the Alepin Sicilian so annoying.
Really?
Yeah, least favorite to play against. I think you know that. You must know.
Yeah.
And I make sure to let him know that. Give him a bit of confidence.
No, I thought he was fine.
I know him too.
Okay.
At the moment. I can see glimpses of Kevin nearby in the video behind me, a good friend of ours, as well as the voice of Dylan, which is ever recognizable. Deciding how to place my pieces here, e6 looked a little bit too committal and would block my bishop on this diagonal, so instead I decided we'll put my dark square bishop here, leave this diagonal open for my bishop, and maybe pinning that knight we could put some good pressure on the d4 pawn. This move kind of forces my hand, and while I did have the option to play knight b6, here I really also considered knight takes knight on c3, but I thought, oh, let's keep more pieces on the board and also retreat while attacking the bishop at the same time. Threatening the d4 pawn, and so bishop e3 looked very reasonable, and we both get castled. So we're in a pretty reasonable opening position. This move, knight a5, I think is a very good one, and a nice thematic idea that you guys should keep in mind. I'm threatening to win the bishop pair, but also, maybe just as important, is my control over the c4 square. I also bring my knight out of the way of some d5 moves that might hit it, and after my opponent saves his bishop with bishop c2, he gives me full access to the c4 square. Not stopping until I get one of the bishops.
You want them, stop harassing them.
It's a lifetime goal.
You like them anyways.
I admit it's not the one I wanted. So I've won the bishop pair, and after my opponent's b3 move, there will certainly be some very weak dark squares, as well as a pawn that can be targeted in white's position. As for me, I've got the two bishops, feeling very happy about that, and looking to use the c-file where there's some loose pieces. someone was walking around with a boombox basically in this pub, which certainly made for a spectacle. But that's why it's so fun to play chess in different environments, especially, you know, in a bar, having a drink. You just get the full experience where no one else in that bar is trying to be mindful that you're there to play chess. So you're just not going to get that same quiet environment that you're used to. And I think that's all part of it. So that's why we decided to show up in the first place. I think my position is improving here. Bishop made it to c6, and this pawn is definitely easy for my pieces to target. We've got rooks coming to the middle. My queen maybe looks a bit strange, but again, it's placed really well on a dark square, which are the weakest in white's camp, and it's not going to be harassed by any of his pieces. Now there are tactics in the position, and I come up with the move b6, which eyeballs that c1 rook, now that the queen left, and of course I'm not too concerned about these pieces lined up here because I've got the perfect pawn formation to deal with that. My opponent could have considered taking my bishop there and trying to take my knight, but ultimately his bishop on c1 would have fallen to a check at the end of all the lines, so I was always going to be ahead material here. Unfortunately, taking my rook on c8 was not the best way to continue. Rook takes f1 would have been superior, but with bishop h6 coming in, I think white was always in serious trouble. However, now it's going to be a full rook that my opponent ends up behind, since the bishop on b1 is going to fall to a check on the first rank. Rook b2 is a big threat here, and with my opponent's time ticking down, he was forced into making a move pretty quickly, although he comes up with a good one here. He moves his king out of danger, but with an extra rook, black's attack is always going to crash through. Threatening the pawn on g2. Knight h4 saves that. And with very little time left on the clock, my opponent is able to sneak one more move in, but an illegal one there at the end. Queen d5, not possible because it was a check.
Yeah, this was the one which was just when the bishop went there. Apart from that, because I didn't see but I think when I go here, maybe takes it. But really, it's tough anyway, because at least after you take here,
maybe can take my knight, but
Yeah.
still I'm going to take your bishop.
The A2 doesn't really play.
It's, yeah. You have 2 knights at least, but
Yeah.
should be better for black. Yeah.
That's a good game.
Skillet.